If you like what I do, consider joining my channel or donating to my coffee. Links in the description.
I understood that reference.
One look at Undivine, and I was like, yes, I need to play this game immediately. There's just something about pixelated Metroidvanias that captivate me. The best way to explain it is that the style transports me back to when I was a little kid playing the NES and being flummoxed and captivated by literally every game I played. It didn't matter. Every NES game felt alien to me, and that translated to me trying to crack open their world to better understand it. Whether I was playing Super Mario Bros. Or Metroid, I was always looking for secrets in those dark backgrounds and suspicious walls, even if there were no secrets to be found. Now, I have this Pavlovian response that has me salivating at the sight of pixelated Metroidvanias. And Undivine's chunky pixel style had me slobbering like a St. Bernard at a, you know what, this analogy is getting gross and uncomfortable and I'm gonna stop now. Back to Undivine. You play as the Traveler, arriving at a village plagued by a mysterious chasm that swallowed most of its residents and any brave warrior who's dared to venture into its gaping maw. You're just another one of those brave warriors, thus you descend into the abyss. But for what reason? To save the villagers? To satiate your curiosity? Or is there something else calling you to this place? Only one way to find out. Let's go jump into a giant magical hole and see if Undivine is a hidden Metroidvania gem or just another descent into darkness.
Combat.
Undivine's combat is proof that you don't need 100 flashy moves to make fights fun. In this game, all you've got is a basic sword slash, forward and upward, whether you're on the ground or in the air, and that's it. No wombo combos, no flashy special attacks, no blocking or parrying. Just you, your blade, and your wits. This means success comes down to fundamentals: knowing your enemy, knowing your surroundings, dodging attacks, and striking when the time is right. It's a back to basics approach that works because the game nails the basics. But while your sword play is straightforward, the game does mix things up with macula relics, special abilities powered by a limited mana bar. You'll start with the Vorpalist Blade, a conjurable projectile sword, and quickly snag some boots that triple dip as an air dash, a dodge roll slash attack, and a means to get through barriers blocking your way. The catch? These relics drain macula, which only refills by picking it up from chests or defeated enemies. That means your air dash and dodge roll are tied to a finite resource, which can feel brutal at first. But with smart use, it's a fun little twist on traditional dodge mechanics. Now, how are the enemies? Well, with a max of around 10 HP at the start and enemies hitting for 1 to 2 damage, you'll find out pretty fast. Mistakes are costly. Thankfully, there are potions you can use to heal yourself, but they're finite and must be found or purchased. No Estus Flask refills allowed in the realm. As for the bosses, they start tough, requiring careful observation and patience, but by about mid-game, I was face tanking them thanks to my build. But I'll dive more into that in the progression section. All you gotta know is that bosses aren't gonna challenge you too much, especially if you fight them out of order like I did. In the late game, I found some bosses I should have fought much earlier and absolutely dog-walked them. Personally, I find squashing bosses to be its own reward if I've earned it. And you can make your Traveler pretty OP in Undivine as long as you explore its world thoroughly. So if tough bosses are a big deal to you, all you gotta do is just suck at exploring and you'll get the challenge you crave. And that's it for combat. Undivine's combat keeps things simple yet satisfying. A basic attack, a few relics, and a mana system that forces you to think before you spam. It's proof that mastering the basics can be just as rewarding as any flashy combo system. The difficulty curve is all about how well you explore, letting you either crush bosses like bugs or sweat through each fight. And like I always say on this channel, simple isn't a dirty word, and Undivine proves it.
Abilities. Platforming.
Undivine has a pretty nice range of abilities that run the gamut of common to uncommon, but there's nothing here that's gonna blow your socks off. I will say that I'm impressed with the Herculean amount of restraint the devs showed by not giving you a double jump. I tell you, I love double jumps just as much as the next guy, but it's actually impressive to see an entire Metroidvania designed without the double jump in mind. It's pretty cool. It's also pretty cool that many of your active combat abilities double as utility. Like I mentioned in the previous section, your boots have multiple uses, but so does your fire spell that damages enemies as well as burns down certain walls. And the relic that lets you stomp to hurt enemies also destroys breakable walls. It's such a smart design choice to ensure that abilities you obtain along your journey have multiple uses. As far as platforming goes, it's very serviceable. The Traveler feels good to control, and the level design is solid. The dev does a great job at designing areas in such a way that it guides observant players to secrets like false walls and alternate exits. And it's subtle designs too, like small platforms that serve as obstacles during a skirmish, but if you actually follow those platforms to an inconspicuous wall, boom, you got a secret. And this game has tons of secrets beyond your typical false walls. I won't spoil these secrets, not just because spoiling is a dick move, but because I honestly don't know how some of the mechanics for some of these secrets work. And that's entirely intentional. I actually spoke with the dev, and he was adamant that he wanted solutions to optional content to be cryptic. And you know what? I like that decision. It fulfills that intrigue I love and expect from pixel-style MVs. Call me weird, but I like a little mystery in my Metroidvanias. That said, if you want to complete the game, you don't need to worry about overly cryptic puzzles stopping you. The critical path is pretty logical. And that's it for this section. Undivine does a lot with a little. By making combat abilities double as traversal tools, the game keeps exploration fresh and rewarding without bloating your moveset. Secrets are everywhere, and they're not handed to you. They're hidden in subtle platforming cues and cryptic mysteries that practically beg you to poke around. It's a simple setup that manages to be surprisingly clever, and for those who love peeling back layers to find hidden stuff, Undivine's world is a treasure trove waiting for those with sharp eyes and a thirst for the unknown.
Progression.
I want to get this out in the open. I was not expecting Undivine's progression to be so robust. It doesn't have traditional leveling, but you gain XP from killing things and completing side quests, and this XP can be used on talents to increase stats and gain abilities, among other things. Not every talent is unlocked from the start. You have to find talents in books scattered throughout the world. The Traveler also has gear, such as many different types of swords, chess pieces, and accessories, that all affect his stats, like strength, spirit, evasion, and luck. And these accessories do what you'd expect accessories to do: give you random buffs and defenses against status effects like poison, bleed, and confusion. It's everything I want from a Metroidvania with light RPG elements, except for the inventory UI. Just two cluttered columns with no categories. You can sort it, but it's still kinda ugly. As mentioned earlier, there are side quests in this game called tasks. Some tasks are essential for the critical path, while optional ones grant nice rewards and a deeper understanding of the realm's true nature and its history. There's only a handful of tasks, but with the game's relatively short runtime, my first playthrough took 7 hours, though the in-game save file said 4.5, I think it was a good amount of side content. There are a few shops scattered throughout the realm, each selling a finite amount of consumable items, gear, and sometimes invaluable relics. So it's a good idea to remember where each shop is located. The currency in the game is called shards. They're green gems dropped by defeated enemies or found in chests, and they actually have narrative significance. But I'll let you discover what that is. I guess the last thing I want to bring up in this section, because it pertains to gear, are cursed items. During your adventure, you'll find cursed items you can't do anything with until you uncurse them at a specific settlement. These items are some of the best in the game, but getting them uncursed comes with a steep price: your max life and max spirit. Uncursing items requires you to sacrifice a portion of your max HP and macula, so making these items available to you shouldn't be taken lightly, considering your max HP is pretty low even in the end game. I love this risk-reward dynamic, and it's fairly punishing gamble. You have absolutely no idea what these items do until you sacrifice your HP and macula. But if you want my 2 cents, some of these items are seriously worth the sacrifice. That's it for progression. Undivine provides a progression system that has some classic RPG mechanics that I just love in a Metroidvania. With a clever talent system, diverse gear options, and cursed items that dare you to trade HP for power, it's as thrilling as it is dangerous. The lack of a polished inventory UI is a pain, but when the game's core progression is this engaging, it's a small price to pay.
Exploration.
I know I say this a lot, but exploration is the lifeblood of a Metroidvania. Of course, combat and platforming matter, but every platformer has those. Exploration is what separates a standard platformer from a true Metroidvania. I found Undivine's combat and platforming to be serviceable, good enough, but nothing groundbreaking. Its exploration, though, that's where Undivine shows its true strength. You're given a bit of exposition and a brief sense of the game's setting before being dropped into its world, literally, and left to your own devices. No quest markers, no hand-holding, just you, the traveler, and a mysterious chasm full of danger and secrets. This setup isn't new to the genre. Hollow Knight and Blasphemous do something similar, but it works especially well in Undivine for a reason that's tough to explain, but I'll try anyway. Undivine's minimalist, pixelated aesthetic perfectly complements its hands-off approach to exploration. Dropping players into a strange, hostile world with barely any guidance feels natural here because it evokes that classic NES-era experience where half the adventure was figuring out where to go and what to do. Back in the day, games didn't always explain themselves, not because of avant-garde design, but because of the limits of the time. Yet, that lack of direction, unintentional or not, bred a sense of intrigue, and Undivine channels that feeling perfectly. It captures that same old-school sense of exploration, where discovery is earned rather than handed to you. And so we ask that ever-important question: is Undivine's exploration rewarding? You better believe it is. Not only are there tons of things to find and many side quests to complete and plenty of mysteries to unfold, the game's laissez-faire approach to game progression, that's the second French term in like 5 minutes. I think I've been playing too much Clair Obscur. The game's Putain-Merde approach to game progression pairs very well with its openness. Whenever a Metroidvania is hands-off and non-linear, it gives way to its discoveries feeling very personal, and this is exactly what I want in my MV's exploration. And because the rewards for thorough exploration are so significant, remember how I was able to crush bosses with ease because I found so much cool stuff? It just makes you want to explore that much more. Needless to say, Undivine was a game I had trouble putting down until I completed it. My one exploratory nitpick has to do with the map. The actual map is fine, but you can't mark it up at first. You have to first unlock the talent to mark up the map. The talent is unlockable pretty early in the game, so you don't have to worry too much. I just wanted to make you aware so you unlock the map marking skill as early as possible. Oh, also, this game has fast travel. It's a waypoint system where you have to find and pay for the waypoints to work. Definitely an aspect borrowed from Hollow Knight that I'd love to see die. That's it for exploration. Undivine drops you into a dangerous pixelated world and tells you, figure it out yourself. And in a genre built on curiosity, that's a beautiful thing. Every path you uncover, every secret you stumble upon, and every boss you crush feels personal. It's a reminder that sometimes the best Metroidvanias don't just hand you a map to follow, they hand you a world to discover.
Atmosphere. Narrative.
If there's one thing I love about Undivine, it's its atmosphere. This game is a love letter to the NES era, with chunky pixel art that walks a fine line where sprites are recognizable but leave just enough room for your imagination to fill in the blanks. It's the kind of retro ambiguity I love. But that retro vibe is not reflected in the game's audio. Undivine's music is surprisingly modern, ranging from quiet, melancholic melodies to epic tracks featuring what I think is Gregorian chanting. It's an interesting design choice, but I ultimately thought it was pretty cool. As far as the narrative's concerned, Undivine's is pretty sparse, with most of its storytelling tucked away in item descriptions or delivered by NPCs who speak with this almost Shakespearean medieval flavor. Their dialogue is surprisingly well written, feeling like something out of a dark fantasy novel. It's all very Souls-like, telling an immediate tale you're experiencing while telling a completely different tale with its item descriptions that weaves into the present day. Now, if you're the kind of player who loves a good puzzle box narrative, one where you have to actually read item descriptions, listen to NPCs, and pay attention to subtle environmental details, then you're in for a treat. The game's lore is layered, with hints of ancient conflicts and an eldritch horror waiting in the background. But if you're someone who prefers your stories front and center, you might find yourself lost or even a little disappointed if you're not doing the assigned reading. For some, this story will feel like a mystery waiting to be unraveled. For others, It might just seem like a bunch of weird stuff happening for some weird reason. But I know so many people who play Metroidvanias and don't even care about the narrative, so just approach it any way you like. But I do want you to know that this game has multiple endings. Without spoiling too much, I'll just say that the true ending is worth chasing down because it actually answers a few environmental mysteries that have been teasing you since the start of the game. All those weird out-of-place objects, they have a purpose, and figuring out what they mean is genuinely satisfying. Pro tip, make sure you're marking up your map. It's going to help you connect the dots when you're putting together the narrative's final moments in the true ending. That's it for this section. Undivine is a game that lets you lose yourself in its cryptic world, blending retro visuals with a surprisingly rich, Souls-like narrative. Whether you're deciphering ancient histories and item descriptions, soaking in that eerie chanting in the title screen, or piecing together the true ending's final revelations, this is a game that rewards players who are willing to think, explore, and pay attention. It's a dark, pixelated puzzle box, and if you love a little intrigue with your monster slaying, Undivine's world has plenty of secrets to share.
Final thoughts and score.
Undivine is a love letter to the old school era of gaming wrapped in a cryptic, pixelated Metroidvania package. It's a game that knows exactly what it wants to be: challenging, mysterious, and rewarding for players willing to dig beneath the surface. Its simple combat is all about timing and positioning, and its world is a treasure trove of secrets for those with sharp eyes and a curious mind. It's got its rough edges, like the cluttered inventory UI, the ability to mark up the map being locked initially, and boss fights becoming way too easy. But for anyone who loves getting lost in a pixelated labyrinth of secrets, it's a no-brainer. You're gonna love this game. I award Undivine an 8 out of 10. Undivine is available on PC, Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. I played Undivine exclusively on the Steam Deck with 0 issues, and thus give it a Steam Deck rating of verified.
Pair placement.
Undivine is a really great Metroidvania, especially when considering its relatively short runtime of around 5 hours, maybe 7 or 8 if you really dig into its mysteries. It excels at exploration, which is the most important aspect in my book, but it leaves a little to be desired in the combat department, in part to its weak bosses. Though I'm certain those bosses would be much more challenging if I played the game on a harder difficulty and restricted my potion usage, for what that's worth. Undivine finds itself mysteriously transported to the B tier. Undivine's fantastic exploration carried the game a lot for me. And though the simplistic combat and easy boss battles aren't an issue for me, I know that some Metroidvanias will definitely have an issue with it. But I promise, if you play Metroidvanias for the exploration and the intrigue, Undivine will not disappoint. And I'm certain its retro flair will make you love this game despite its shortcomings.
Through ascending ruins to the east and high, where shadows linger and secrets lie, leap and glide to a chamber concealed, corrupted ring, its power revealed. Journey grand through trials fierce with sword in hand.